Hey guys, Larry here. For today's video, I'm going to talk about Watch the Throne and what the event has proven about Smash Ultimate so far, the good and the bad. Before I get into it, I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone who made the event possible because it was an amazing tournament to watch and I really hope we get a second one. But with that out of the way, let's get into the video. As much as this hurts me to say this, I gotta do it. Mkleo, the GOAT of Smash Ultimate, he's having the biggest fall off a number one player has had in Smash history in my opinion. Just last year, he was still considered the best player in the world, and though he had some rocky placements at the beginning of the year, his Genesis 9 win still put him in the eyes of many as being the best player in the game. But at the moment, I don't even think he's a top 10 player anymore. The thing that's really been harming him in my opinion is his character selection. There have been so many sets where it just feels like he's counterpicking himself and he ends up losing because of it. A perfect example is versus Luis at this event. He decides to go Pyra Mythra against him and loses, which is the first time Luis has ever beaten him by the way. In the previous sets they've played, he's beaten him with Byleth and Corrin. I get he may be trying to stray away from playing those characters, but why go a character that's been proven to be one you're most inconsistent with over Joker or someone else? Whoever's coaching Leo really needs to sit down with him and go over his character selection process, because half the sets he's lost this year, it felt like he lost to himself more so than his opponent. Despite all of this, I still believe in Leo. The skill is there. I know he mentioned playing Rob more, which I think could greatly help him with his character selection issue, considering Rob is a really strong meta character that easily handles a lot of matchups. Right now, there is a noticeable gap between the top 4 players in Smash Ultimate and everyone else. That top 4 being Spargo, Sonics, Mia, and Ikola. Sonics, Mia, and Ikola being put in this spot through their ability to be as consistent as they are, and Spargo being put in that top 4 because he's the only player who can consistently beat those 3 and win tournaments over them. That leads into my other point, which is that Spargo, in my opinion, has the most potential to be the best player in the world going into 2024. In 2023, I believe he's the only player that has a winning record on Mia, Sonics, and Ikola, which currently seems impossible for everyone else. The only thing I see that's really holding him back is his consistency when it comes to beating everyone else, which I think has to do with the characters he plays. I think dual mating Cloud and Pyra Mythra just isn't a good combination due to the fact that he's playing 2 characters that have the exact same exploitable flaw, which is the recovery. It's that reason alone that causes him to get upsetted more than the other 3 players in the top 4, which is just them having a more consistent character in tournament play. It's not to say that it's impossible for Spargo to be ranked number 1 with the characters he uses. I mean, he's gotten incredibly close twice. It's just he's going to need to work that much harder than the other 3 to remain consistent. That is, unless he's able to find a character that he can be more consistent with in earlier parts of the bracket. Sonics is going to become the most consistent player in 2024. It just feels like he's gotten so many player and character matchups down to a science. Despite not winning the tournament, he dropped the least amount of games of the entire event. Throughout pools and final bracket, he only dropped 9 games, and 6 of those were to the person who won the tournament. Right now, his biggest obstacles to becoming number 1 is Spargo and Light, since those are the players he seems to have the most trouble consistently beating. It definitely feels like the Cloud pick from Spargo threw him off since he seemed incredibly prepped for the Pyra Mythra, but we'll have to see what happens in their future sets. As the game's meta progresses, it is obviously becoming a lot more campy and matches are taking a lot longer to finish. There's 2 major reasons for this in my opinion. The first and most obvious one is that the characters that are being played more at a top level are ones that have incredibly strong defensive tools. They basically make it super difficult to interact with them without getting hit, so you have to approach them very cautiously, otherwise you're just blindly running in at them and taking a lot of damage. Which leads into the next point, which is that the punish game for Ultimate has gotten a lot more optimized. This isn't 2019 where you could just run into the opponent, lose neutral, and maybe take like 30%. Ultimate is becoming a game where realistically, if your opponent is playing on point, it only takes 1 to 2 solid interactions to lose your stock. It's for that reason, on top of characters having strong defensive tools, that you don't see people running in as much because it's just not worth it. WebJP and Apollo Kage were the 2 players at this event that surprised me the most. Web showcased the potential of Sheik that many players, including myself, have talked about for years now. His combos and awareness to close out stocks were amazing, but what impressed me the most was how good he could be on defense. I personally believe that's where a lot of Sheik players at a top level struggle, but he did such a phenomenal job at that end. I think tournament nerves definitely kicked in during a lot of his sets and resulted in him losing, but that's something that'll come with more experience. It's crazy to think that in a pool that had Dabuz, Akola, and Gluttony, he had a realistic shot of coming out of that as the first seed. Despite Apollo Kage getting 13th at this event, he's showing signs that he has what it takes to become a top 10 player. Beating Light and almost beating Spargo was absolutely crazy. Thing is too, when you watch him play, he just seems so comfortable regardless of who he's playing against, which allows him to just get so many clutch plays. It also feels like he's always implementing something new with Snake, and Snake being such a meta character currently makes his possibility of climbing the ranks even better. Last but certainly not least, I have to talk about the current #1 ranked player, Akola. I feel like Akola showed us two things that could definitely help him keep his #1 spot going into next year. First off, he showed us that he's improved his defensive game and camping capabilities. He's now willing to time out his opponents, and he made that very obvious in his Tweak and Sonic sets. Second thing is Akola's secondaries. Specifically, his Pyramithra have the potential to be a real threat. I know a lot of people want to believe that he can only play Steve and want to downplay how good he actually is, but his Pyramithra looked scary good. His set versus Spargo was a lot closer than it looked, and I honestly think if Akola stopped fishing for kills during that set, the results could have been a lot different than what we saw. And that is it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this style of video from me, make sure to drop a like and comment your opinions. Depending on the feedback, I'll do more videos like this to recap tournaments. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.